Stop. Don't react. Because this moment decides who controls your life. Every insult, every provocation, every moment of disrespect is a silent test, and most people fail it instantly, not because they are weak, but because they react without thinking. The uncomfortable truth is this: the moment you react emotionally, you hand your power to someone else. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet he feared one enemy more than war, betrayal, or death: his own uncontrolled reaction. He understood something most people never will. You don't lose control when things go wrong. You lose control when you react. And when you stop reacting, something shifts. Insults lose their weight, chaos loses its grip, and people lose their influence over you. This is not silence. This is not weakness. This is mastery. Act 1, the problem: relatable pain. Every day, whether you notice it or not, someone provokes you. Words, opinions, disrespect, even silence that feels intentional. Someone ignores your message. Someone criticizes your work. Someone pulls you into drama that isn't even yours. And before you have time to think, before you even realize what's happening, you react. Your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your mind starts racing. You replay the moment again and again, imagining what you should have said, what you should have done. Anger rises. Defensiveness takes over. Overthinking becomes your constant companion. Say this with me slowly. Reaction feels automatic, but it is not inevitable. This is something most people never question. They assume their emotions control them, that reacting is just who they are. But psychology tells a different story. Research from Harvard shows that emotional reactivity increases stress hormones like cortisol by more than 20%, impairing judgment, memory, and long-term decision-making. In other words, the more you react, the less clearly you think. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most people do today. In his private writings, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Yet most people never realize it. They spend their lives reacting to emails, comments, criticism, and disrespect, slowly giving their peace away moment by moment. Pause with me for 3 seconds. Breathe in. And ask yourself honestly, how many of my problems today were created by my reaction, not the event itself? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. The event is often neutral. A coworker interrupts you. A friend replies late. A stranger criticizes you. None of these things have meaning on their own. The suffering begins when your mind assigns a story to them: disrespect, rejection, attack. And once that story takes hold, the reaction follows automatically. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned us of this when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Say it again quietly. It's not the event, it's my reaction. Here's a simple exercise you can do today. Think of one moment that triggered you recently. Write down exactly what happened, only the facts, no interpretation. Then write down what you told yourself about it. Most people are shocked by how much of their pain comes from the second part, not the first. This awareness is where change begins. But awareness alone is not enough. Because knowing this truth in calm moments is easy. Living it under pressure is the real challenge. And that is why in the next part we step into the inner world of Marcus Aurelius to see how a man surrounded by war, betrayal, and judgment trained himself to pause when the world expected him to explode. Act 2, Marcus Aurelius' Inner Battle. Marcus Aurelius was not born calm. That is the part history rarely tells you. We imagine him as a statue, emotionless, wise beyond human struggle. But the truth is far more uncomfortable and far more powerful. Marcus Aurelius was a man constantly tested by chaos. He ruled Rome during relentless wars, deadly plagues, political betrayal, and public judgment that never stopped. At one point, nearly half of the empire's population was wiped out by disease. Generals failed him. Trusted allies turned against him. The crowd praised him one day and questioned him the next. And yet what disturbed him most was not the chaos outside, it was the chaos within. He wrote his journal not to inspire others, but to discipline himself. In meditations, he reminded himself again and again, "You are angry, but anger is not required." That sentence alone reveals something shocking. He felt anger. He felt frustration. He felt the urge to react. But unlike most people, he refused to obey it. Pause here for a moment. Breathe in. Say this quietly, with me, feeling as human, reacting is optional. Marcus Aurelius understood that leadership, real leadership, begins with self-control. Not control over people, not control over outcomes, but control over impulse. He once wrote, "The best answer to anger is silence." Not because silence is passive, but because silence buys time, and time is where power lives. Consider this: modern neuroscience confirms that when we pause for even 3 to 5 seconds before reacting, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, regains control over the emotional centers. Marcus Aurelius did not know neuroscience, but he lived its truth daily. He trained himself to pause when insulted, to observe when betrayed, to breathe when provoked. Imagine the pressure. Imagine being blamed for decisions that affect millions. Imagine knowing that any emotional reaction could destabilize an empire. And yet, instead of reacting, he wrote reminders to himself like this: choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This is not denial. This is discipline. It is the discipline of refusing to let the external world dictate your internal state. Say it with me now: slowly, reaction is surrender. Because the moment you react emotionally, you give control away. You allow someone else's words, actions, or ignorance to move you like a puppet. Marcus Aurelius saw this clearly. He understood that every provocation is an invitation to lose control. And every time you decline that invitation, you grow stronger. Reset with me here. Inhale. Exhale. Think of the last time someone tried to provoke you. What were they really trying to take? Your time, your attention, your emotional energy. Marcus Aurelius protected these things fiercely. He knew that an exhausted mind cannot govern wisely. That is why he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Not your circumstances, not other people, your thoughts. He trained himself to examine his thoughts before they became reactions. This is where most people fail. They believe reactions are honest. They believe reacting proves strength. But Marcus Aurelius understood the opposite. He understood that reacting is easy. Mastery is hard. Reacting is instinct. Discipline is choice. And this choice must be practiced daily, especially when it feels unfair. Especially when you feel disrespected. Especially when your ego demands a response. Ego was Marcus Aurelius's greatest enemy. He warned himself constantly about it. He wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." This was not about morality. It was about urgency, about not wasting life energy on meaningless reactions. Think about this data point: the average person spends over 40% of their waking hours ruminating, replaying conversations, imagining responses, reliving emotional triggers. That is nearly half of your life spent reacting in your mind. Marcus Aurelius refused to live this way. He chose presence over replay, control over chaos. He trained himself to ask one powerful question before reacting: does this deserve my attention? Most things did not. And here is the paradox. The less he reacted, the more authority he gained. People listened more carefully. His words carried weight. His silence commanded respect. Because calm is intimidating in a world addicted to noise. This is not weakness. This is dominance. But understand this clearly: Marcus Aurelius did not achieve this overnight. This was a daily inner battle. He failed. He corrected himself. He wrote reminders because he needed them. That should comfort you, because the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. And if an emperor ruling the most powerful empire in history had to fight his impulses every day, so do you. Reset one more time. Breathe in. Say it with me: I do not have to react. In the next part, we will explore what happens when you truly stop reacting, how dynamics shift, how manipulation collapses, and why silence becomes your most powerful weapon. This is where everything changes. Act 3, the shift when you stop reacting. Something profound happens the moment you stop reacting. It's subtle at first, almost invisible, but once you notice it, you can never unsee it. The world doesn't change immediately. People don't suddenly become kinder. Problems don't magically disappear. What changes is something far more important: the balance of power. Because the moment you stop reacting, the dynamic shifts. Insults lose their sting. Drama collapses under its own weight. Manipulation quietly fails. Pause here for a second. Breathe in. Say it with me: when I don't react, I don't lose, I gain. Most people don't understand this. They believe reacting is how you defend yourself, how you show strength, how you prove you matter. But reacting emotionally does the opposite. It signals vulnerability. It tells the world exactly where you can be controlled. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "If someone despises me, that's their problem. My only concern is not doing or saying anything deserving of contempt." Notice the shift. He doesn't focus on the insult. He focuses on his response. Because power has never belonged to the loudest voice in the room. Power belongs to the calmest one. Think about modern social dynamics, online arguments, workplace politics, family conflicts. People provoke because they expect a reaction. They expect emotion. They expect resistance. They expect noise. And when they get it, they feel validated. Neuroscience confirms this. Emotional reactions activate reward centers in the brain, not just for the person reacting, but for the provocateur. Your reaction feeds them. Silence starves them. Reset here. Inhale. Exhale. Ask yourself who benefits when I react, rarely you. When you stop reacting, something uncomfortable happens for the other person. They feel uncertain. They feel exposed. They feel powerless because they can no longer predict or control you. Calm becomes unsettling in a world addicted to chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This wasn't philosophy for him. It was strategy. He knew that matching someone's emotional level drags you down to their terrain. Refusing to react forces them to rise or retreat. This is why silence feels so dangerous to people who thrive on control. Consider this real-world example. In negotiations, studies show that the person who speaks less and pauses longer is consistently perceived as more competent, more confident, and more authoritative. Silence creates gravity. Reaction dissolves it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this long before modern psychology gave it data. He trained himself to let moments pass without commentary, to let insults hang in the air without response, to let misunderstandings resolve themselves without force. And something remarkable happened. People began to treat him differently, not because he demanded respect, but because he embodied it. Say it slowly, I don't chase control. I embody it. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. Not chaotic, unpredictable in the best sense. People cannot push your buttons because you no longer hand them the map. Your calm creates a psychological boundary, and boundaries change behavior. Reset again. Breathe in. Feel the stillness. This is not suppression. This is not avoidance. This is conscious restraint. There is a difference. Suppression builds pressure. Restraint builds strength. Marcus Aurelius warned against confusing the two. He wrote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." He wasn't telling himself to pretend nothing happened. He was reminding himself that meaning is optional, that interpretation is a choice, and choice is where freedom lives. Think of how many times reacting made a situation worse. A message sent in anger. A comment you couldn't take back. A confrontation that escalated because you needed to be right. Data shows that over 60% of interpersonal conflicts escalate due to immediate emotional responses rather than the original issue. In other words, reaction creates more damage than the event itself. Marcus Aurelius refused to pay that price. He understood that dignity is fragile, and once lost through reaction, it is difficult to reclaim. Here's a practical reset you can use immediately. The next time you feel triggered, silently label the emotion. Just one word. Anger, fear, ego. Labeling emotions has been shown to reduce their intensity by activating rational brain circuits. Marcus Aurelius did this intuitively through journaling, naming thoughts before obeying them. This is the shift. You move from being inside the emotion to observing it, from slave to master. And as this becomes your habit, people notice. They feel your presence before you speak. They sense your stability. They test you less. And even when they do, you remain unmoved. This is why Stoicism is not passive. It is powerful. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't chase validation. It stands firm. But understand, the stopping reaction does not mean doing nothing forever. It means choosing when to act, not being forced to respond. Timing becomes your weapon. Intention becomes your shield. Marcus Aurelius didn't eliminate action. He eliminated impulsive action. And that distinction changes everything. Reset one final time. Breathe in. Say it with me, calm is my advantage. In the next part, we will break this mastery down into practical Stoic tools, simple, actionable techniques you can apply daily to train this discipline until it becomes automatic. Because philosophy without practice is just words. And this is where practice begins. Act 4, Practical Stoic Tools. Actionable mastery is not built in moments of calm. It is built in moments of pressure. That is why Marcus Aurelius never relied on motivation or inspiration. He relied on systems, simple rules, daily practices, tools designed to work when emotions are loud and clarity feels far away. Philosophy for the Stoics was not something to admire. It was something to use. So in this part, we move from understanding to action, from insight to discipline. Pause with me for a moment. Breathe in. Say it with me. Wisdom means nothing without practice. The first tool Marcus Aurelius lived by is what we now call the pause rule. Before every reaction, there must be a pause. Not a long pause, not a dramatic pause. Just 3 seconds. Studies in behavioral psychology show that delaying a reaction by as little as 3 seconds significantly reduces impulsive behavior and restores access to rational thinking. Marcus Aurelius practiced this instinctively. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. That estimate happens instantly. The pause interrupts it. The next time you feel triggered, do this. Inhale slowly through your nose. Hold for 1 second, exhale through your mouth. While you do ask one question, is this worth my peace? Say it again with me, is this worth my peace? Most things aren't. The second Stoic tool is control the meaning. Events are neutral. Always, meaning is assigned. When someone disrespects you, the event is sound waves leaving their mouth. When someone ignores you, the event is silence. Your mind turns these into stories. Disrespect, rejection, threat. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to strip events down to their raw form. He wrote, "Remove the judgment, and you remove the thought, I am harmed. Remove the thought, I am harmed, and the harm disappears." This is not positive thinking. This is precision thinking. Here's a practical exercise. The next time something upsets you, describe it in the most boring, factual way possible. No emotion, no interpretation, just facts. You'll feel the emotional charge weaken. Neuroscience confirms this. Reframing reduces amygdala activation, lowering emotional intensity. Marcus Aurelius did this long before brain scans existed. Reset here. Breathe in, calm your shoulders. Say it softly, meaning is my choice. The third tool is detachment from ego. Most reactions are not about survival. They are about identity, being right, being respected, being seen. Marcus Aurelius warned himself constantly about ego. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Ego demands immediate response. Wisdom allows delay. Ask yourself this powerful question before reacting: is my ego speaking or my values? This question alone can save you years of unnecessary conflict. Consider this data point. Research shows that individuals with high emotional self-regulation outperform peers in leadership roles by over 30%. Why? Because they don't let ego dictate behavior. Marcus Aurelius knew that an emperor ruled not by force, but by example. Calm behavior set the tone for the entire empire. The fourth tool is a negative visualization. This may sound strange, but it is powerful. Marcus Aurelius would regularly imagine worst-case scenarios: criticism, failure, loss, not to suffer, but to prepare. He wrote, "Begin the morning by saying to yourself, I shall meet with busybody, the ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, unsocial." By expecting provocation, he removed its shock. When it happened, he was ready. Try this in your own life. Before a difficult conversation or stressful day, quietly tell yourself, I may be misunderstood today. I may be criticized today. When it happens, you'll feel less reactive. Because surprise fuels emotion. Preparation dissolves it. Reset again. Inhale. Exhale. Say it with me, nothing catches me off guard. The fifth tool is evening reflection. Marcus Aurelius ended his days by reviewing his actions, not with guilt, but with curiosity. He asked himself, where did I react today? Where did I pause? Where can I improve tomorrow? Modern psychology confirms this habit. Reflection increases emotional regulation and long-term behavior change. You don't need a journal like an emperor. Just ask one question before sleep: did I protect my peace today? Over time, this question rewires behavior. Reacting less becomes automatic. Calm becomes your default. These tools are simple. That is their strength. Complexity fails under pressure. Simplicity survives. Marcus Aurelius understood that discipline must be portable, something you can carry into conflict, stress, and uncertainty. And when these tools become habits, something extraordinary happens. You stop feeling like the world controls you. You stop feeling pulled into chaos. You start moving through life with quiet authority. Reset one final time here. Breathe in. Say it clearly: I choose my response. In the next part, we will step back and look at the transformation this creates, how your presence changes, how people respond differently, and how a life without constant reaction becomes a life of clarity, respect, and inner power. This is where everything comes together. Act 5, Transformation Vision. There comes a moment when you realize something has changed, not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, unmistakably. You notice it in small details, in how situations that once triggered you no longer do, in how silence feels comfortable instead of awkward, in how your breath stays steady while others lose control. This is the transformation that happens when you stop reacting. Pause with me for a moment. Breathe in. Say it softly: something is different now. When you stop reacting, you don't become passive. You become precise. You don't withdraw from life. You step into it with clarity. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That retreat is not escape. It is stability. It is the ability to stand unmoved while the world shakes. As you react less, people begin to sense it. They may not know why, but they feel it. Your presence changes. You speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight. You move slower, but with intention. You don't rush to defend yourself because you no longer feel threatened by every opinion. Psychologists call this emotional authority, the ability to influence without force. Studies show that people who display calm under pressure are perceived as more competent and trustworthy even when they say very little. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth. He didn't demand respect. He earned it through restraint. Reset here. Inhale. Exhale. Say it with me: calm is my signal. When you stop reacting, relationships change. Some people drift away, especially those who thrived on provoking you. That's not loss. That's alignment. Others step closer. They feel safe around you. They trust your steadiness. Because people crave stability in a world full of emotional chaos. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to chase approval. He wrote, "I do my duty. Other things trouble me not." This is freedom. Freedom from validation. Freedom from being pulled into unnecessary conflict. And with that freedom comes clarity. Decisions become easier. You waste less energy replaying conversations. You sleep better. Data confirms this. Reduced emotional reactivity correlates with lower anxiety, better focus, and improved physical health. In other words, Stoic calm is not just philosophical, it's practical. Think about how much energy reacting once consumed. The arguments, the explanations, the need to be understood. Now imagine redirecting that energy into growth, creativity, and purpose. That is the real reward. Marcus Aurelius didn't stop reacting to feel superior. He stopped reacting to live well. Reset again. Breathe in. Feel the stillness. Say it clearly: I protect my energy. When you stop reacting, time expands. Days feel fuller. Moments feel richer. You are present instead of replaying the past or anticipating the next provocation. You act when action matters. You speak when words add value. And when silence serves you better, you choose it without fear. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the final transformation. You stop talking about self-control and start embodying it. You stop admiring Stoicism and start living it. You don't need to announce your discipline. People see it, they feel it, and most importantly, you feel it. But let this be clear: this is not an end state. This is a practice. There will be days you slip, moments you react. That doesn't erase the work. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote reminders because he needed them. The difference now is awareness. You recover faster, you learn, you adjust. And each time you choose not to react, you strengthen the habit. Reset one last time. Inhale, exhale. Say it with me, I choose my response. This is how emperors think. Not because they rule others, but because they rule themselves. This is how Stoics live. Not disconnected from emotion, but disciplined within it. When you stop reacting, everything changes, not because the world bends to you, but because you no longer bend to the world. And now a final invitation. If this message resonated with you, if you felt a shift, even just listening to these words, take one small action right now. Like this video so this philosophy can reach others who need it. Subscribe to Making Life Better if you want to keep building this inner strength one principle at a time. And share this with someone who reacts too quickly, not to judge them, but to offer them a path to peace. Now do one more thing before you leave. In the comments, write just one word: control. One word to remind yourself that you choose your response. Remember this above all else. You do not need to control the world. You only need to control your response to it. That is where true power begins.